why the US and China are dueling over this Dutch company. As the world's leading supplier to the semiconductor industry, the Dutch firm ASML is an international force. Their main line of business is the production of lithography machines, which are used to create the computer chips that go into practically every device of modern technology, including phones, electric cars, medical devices, and military technology. And since the beginning of 2018, ASML has been caught in the middle of a technological war between China and the United States. Because it is the only source of something so essential that an entire industry can't function without it, the company has geopolitical implications that might shake up global power structures. Hello and welcome to another video of Finance Sense, where we cover all the latest trends in the financial markets and the economy. Before we start, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment below if you enjoyed watching this video, and turn on the notification bell to keep posted. And now, without further ado, let's start. ASML specializes in the production of lithography machines used to manufacture computer chips. Because it determines how much detail can be packed into the silicon, it is arguably the most essential machine in the entire computer chip-making process. To elaborate, lithography machines use ultraviolet light to project designs of patterns onto tiny silicon plates called wafers, which are subsequently used to manufacture computer chips. There are two types of lithography machines for this: deep ultraviolet or DUV, and extreme ultraviolet, or EUV. These two differ from one another in terms of how finely they can print patterns on wafers. The next generation EUV is substantially more powerful than the DUV. The wavelengths used by current EUV lithography machines are more than 14 times shorter than those used by DUV lithography machines, enabling them to produce significantly smaller, quicker, and more powerful computer chips by using much more complex patterns on the wafers. This is where ASML's dominance becomes evident. ASML has an incredible 90% market share of the global lithography sector, yet other manufacturers exist such as Canon and Nikon. However, when it comes to extreme UV lithography machines, no one can match ASML. This industry is not merely dominated by ASML. Rather, ASML created the sector in the first place. As the sole corporation capable of building EUV machines, they inevitably cause a major geopolitical issue. But how did they get into this mess in the first place? To put it more simply, they gambled on themselves. While no other firm was attempting to invest extensively in the notion that extreme ultraviolet lithography was the industry's future, it was a global endeavor with a supply chain spanning approximately 800 businesses worldwide. It took more than 20 years to build, starting with research and development in the 1990s, and ending only when it was ready for production in 2016. But it clearly paid off since it continues to account for a growing portion of their revenue, and they are currently selling each new unit for $150 million. However, ASML's global leadership in DUV and EUV is both a benefit and a curse for the Dutch business, given that it is currently embroiled in a geopolitical conflict between China and the US. China announced its Made in China 2025 plan in 2015. By localizing an industry required to manufacture everything they would need, particularly its design and manufacturing, it aims to significantly improve the self-reliance of Chinese technology. They would refrain from dealing with foreign suppliers in this way, which is essential given their isolationist views and lack of strong allies. The advancement of Chinese microchip technology is the basic foundation of this program. Because of how powerful EUV machines are and will continue to be in the future, they are used in almost all forms of technology, including mobile phones, electric vehicles, medical equipment, and military technologies such as hypersonic ballistic missiles. In addition, microchips are the building blocks of next-generation technologies, including cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and self-driving automobiles. Due to their importance in modern society, they have essentially started a new arms race between the East and the West. Therefore, any nation without reliable access to a significant amount of these chips runs the danger of lagging behind in terms of technology. The US steps in here because that is precisely what they want to do to China, deny them the capacity to make the best silicon microchips. It all began in 2018 when Washington learned of an agreement ASML made with SMIC, the largest computer chip manufacturer in China, to sell them EUV equipment. Washington urged the Dutch government to revoke the export permit given to ASML on the grounds that the technology would probably be exploited by the Chinese military, endangering the national security of the United States and the rest of the West. Despite early reluctance, Amsterdam came to understand the danger of China's efforts to modernize chip production. As a result, no EUV equipment has been delivered to China, much less installed there. Since ASML is the only business on Earth that makes EUV equipment, SMIC has no alternatives, creating a significant barrier to Chinese competitive advantages in the chip markets. Even with government support, it's unlikely that any Chinese businesses would be able to replicate this technology in the next 10 to 15 years. Additionally, even though 15% of ASML revenues come from China, the US accounts for 25% to 30%, making them far more significant. The same restrictions collectively apply to Tokyo Electron Limited, a significant manufacturer of semiconductor production equipment in Japan. These three countries account for 90% of the global supply of these critical machineries. If they all work together, China will be in a lot of trouble. What has Beijing said in response to all of this? In addition to spending billions on their own industry to fight against restrictions, they also complained to the World Trade Organization against the US, claiming it was abusing export limits and endangering the stability of international industrial supply networks. This conflict over microchips is simply a stand-in for a far larger geopolitical conflict between an established superpower and a rising one. Given that China is catching up too quickly, the US is exerting its influence in this area with vigor. So the ban will make the gap between their technology and Chinese technology bigger by more than 10 years. But the real question is this all worth it? Over the next 3 years, these regulations will cost the global industry roughly $10 billion in missed sales of products and services to China, and costs for all types of chips will rise. Additionally, if China is forced to produce everything on its own and eventually succeeds, which they have a good chance of doing, that will essentially cut off many Western businesses from the second largest economy in the world in this sector, resulting in massive long-term losses, as well as a gradual loss of effectiveness for export control measures. Although the entire scenario continues to be a sore spot in ties between the US and the Netherlands, it is evident that the US will stop at nothing to prevent China from obtaining ASML technology. Hi, we hope that watching this video was interesting and that you learned something valuable. If you enjoyed it, please hit the notification button, like, subscribe, and watch more of our videos. Also, don't forget to share your comments in the comments section below. This is Finance Sense, helping you stay current on all the most recent changes in the financial markets and economy. Stay safe and look out for the next video.